Welcome to the Love Intervention. I'm Pastor Evans.
I'm Mrs. Evans.
So today we're talking about planning a wedding.
Wedding planning.
Somebody's been dating. Somebody asked somebody to marry them.
Now what?
You need to plan a wedding. That should be interesting.
Right. So I was reading from the magazine Focus on the Family. There was an article I'd like to share.
Surely.
Tips for planning the wedding.
We need some tips. Go ahead.
Planning my wedding was one of the most trying and wonderful and exhausting and fulfilling experiences of my life. From choosing a date to time to compiling the guest list to finding the dress, the details quickly became overwhelming. While my fiance and I enjoyed the anticipation leading up to the big day, stress and worry clouded some of our premarital bliss. So I thought that was
that's a pretty accurate description.
Right, especially for our experience.
Yeah. We only had one.
Okay.
That face?
I don't know what you mean.
We've only planned one wedding. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I was
That's
like
our
so confused.
Right.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But, we've only been married
Only been married
once.
Yeah.
Couple times once.
Don't say that, because then people gonna think we've been married to other people. And we've renewed our vows
Twice.
So we've been married to each other.
Once. But a couple times.
Yeah. Once, but what's the question, woman?
So today, how do you stay encouraged while wedding planning?
How you stay encouraged while wedding planning? Well, a minute ago, I said we've only ever planned one wedding.
Right.
So we can only speak from our experience.
Right.
So how do you stay encouraged during wedding planning? How did we stay encouraged when we were planning our wedding? I think that if I could say one thing about staying encouraged while you're planning your wedding is
Elope.
That wasn't gonna be mine.
Oh, that wasn't yours.
Yours is elope. We all
I'm just half joking, though. I'm just half joking, y'all.
So I would think that just keep talking to your partner.
Right.
Right. So you stay encouraged by keep talking, because a lot of people are gonna have a lot of opinions about what you should and shouldn't do.
Right.
What you should and shouldn't have. And I think that a lot of times people get caught up in the fantasy of a wedding.
Right.
And if you remember what it is that you want and you keep talking with your partner about what it is that you two want, then you won't get discouraged about things that you cannot have or don't get to do.
Right.
And then don't put everybody else's
expectations.
That's the word I was looking for. Expectations and opinions on your wedding.
Right.
So I think that's one way to stay encouraged.
Right.
What do you think?
For me though, it's a little different, right? Because traditionally it's the bride's parents who pay for the wedding, right? Tradition. I think.
Tradition.
I think in modern times, is that an old people word?
Probably.
In modern times. A lot of the times the couples either pay for the wedding together or their families come together and pay for the wedding.
Right.
But in our case,
well,
particularly mine, my family didn't have the finances. Okay, and your mom didn't necessarily have the finances. She put some stuff together though. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay, so but in our case, we pretty much paid for the wedding ourselves on a very limited budget.
Right.
And it was hard to stay encouraged during that time.
Yeah.
It was. But again, I wasn't one of those brides who always dreamed of I wasn't one of those brides that always dreamed of this fantastic wedding. I don't even think I had a dream of a wedding.
Okay.
I knew that I wanted to be married. I just never thought about the wedding.
Right.
So
that's probably different from a lot of people. I wouldn't say most, that's not fair. From a lot of people.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to be married and have kids and all that good stuff. But I didn't dream or even have thoughts about how the process of getting there, like the wedding.
That probably helped us out then.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a whole lot of, well, I mean, there was stress involved in putting the stuff together. But it wasn't as much as it could have been. But we went through our own share of, like, I quit.
Right. Okay, so.
Right. So, wife, like the article you read said, wedding planning can run you through a gamut of emotions. This can be trying, it can be wonderful, and we're going to cover a little bit of that today.
Right.
For you. All right?
For you.
All right.
You're funny.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is amazing weddings don't make great marriages.
Right.
You can have the most wonderful wedding in the world. And a lot of people spend a lot of time and effort and energy and stress trying to make sure that the wedding is perfect.
Right.
Spend hundreds
of millions
or thousands or whoever. Some people spend millions and millions.
Right.
Some people spend thousands and thousands.
Right. You can spend millions of dollars getting your initials etched and sketched into napkins.
Right. And then be married for 4 days.
48 hours.
48 hours. So amazing weddings don't make great marriages.
Right.
That's what we wanted to start with. One of the things I think of is the fact that people will stay engaged for years.
Right.
Trying to save up enough money to have the wedding of their dream.
Right.
And there's, I mean, you can do that, but in my humble opinion, you're wasting time. You could have been married 2 more years while you were saving money to do the wedding.
Right. Earlier in my life, when I was working, I came across a couple who were together for 25 years before they got married.
Wow.
And 6 months into their marriage, the wife was like, I quit. She was like, we've been together for 25 years and I can't do this marriage thing.
That's crazy.
Because at first she was like, we've been together for 25 years and so we're just going to get married because we're getting older and everything's going to be great. And 6 months in, she was like, that's a no.
Right.
That's a no.
Right. They had spent too much time cementing whatever it was that they had.
Now that is like...
That's extreme.
That's an extreme case, right? But it just proves that no matter how long you've been together, marriage is not as easy as you think it is.
Right.
And it's not the same.
Right.
Okay? It's not the same as just being with someone. Once you get married, it's a whole nother other thing.
Right. Yeah, the Bible says that when you get married, you become one flesh.
Right.
So until that time when you actually make your vows to each other and to God, depending on what you believe, until that time that you actually make your vows to each other, then you're 2 separate people.
Right.
Who happen to have decided to stay together. Right? But once you complete your vows and you complete your wedding and you complete getting married, now you're one entity.
Right, because sex doesn't make you one flesh.
Right.
It doesn't.
Not for longer than, well, never mind.
Okay, in Jesus' name.
So, you can have the most amazing wedding in the world.
Right.
And it does not guarantee that your marriage is going to be great because those are 2 separate things.
Yeah.
And I think that people equate wedding with marriage.
Right.
And it's not the same thing.
Okay, so husband.
Yes.
I would like to talk about our experience. Because we've only planned our own.
Yeah.
We've been around people when they planned theirs,
Mm-hmm.
so we've kind of had an opportunity to look through the window, had the window view,
And watch them freak out.
Right. But we've only planned our own,
Right.
and so let's talk about our experience.
Okay. So I think that one of the things that gets a lot of attention is the rings, right?
Right.
And people spend inordinate a whole lot of money.
Right.
Couldn't say inordinate.
Right.
A whole lot of money on the ring, and like we said before, a lot of times people don't make it, right?
Right.
So our particular experience started with what? How much we paid for our rings?
About $8 a piece.
I think we paid $8 a piece. It was under $20 for both rings,
Right.
and we wore those rings for
A long time.
the first 5, 6, maybe 5 years of our marriage.
Well,
Because I didn't get you the diamond until
6 years later.
it was 6 years in, huh?
Yeah, I didn't get my first diamond ring until
Right.
6 years later.
So with regard to wedding planning, though,
Right.
I don't think you need to spend a whole bunch of money on the ring.
Right.
And I think that people put too much emphasis on the ring. That's another thing that we change our focus to.
Well, in addition to the fact that I would say a large majority of people get engagement rings,
Right.
which is where the big diamond comes in play if that's what you're going to do.
Right.
But for the wedding, you're getting a band.
Right.
And so it would most likely be something that would go with the engagement ring. But some people just wear their band.
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money on that, especially if you spent a lot of money on the engagement ring.
Right.
Because it's a compliment. But again, that depends on your fiance.
Right.
Right? You gotta remember that.
Now here's an interesting question. Would you tell potential men giving engagement rings to buy? I guess you gotta know who your fiance is, huh?
Right.
Because what if?
Because she'd be like, "Oh no, I will not marry you."
But then
That is not.
But then do you stay with that person?
That is. Well, I mean, depending. Like, if she was like that when you were dating, what do you expect for her to be or do, or you expect her to be a different chick because you got this $25 ring?
I'm not gonna say get a $25.
I mean, I don't know.
So one. Don't go broke on the ring. I think that's
Please
what we're
don't
trying
go
to get
broke because after that you need somewhere to live, you need food to eat.
at. Yeah.
I don't know if y'all got kids.
Right.
I don't know if you're gonna have some kids. You want to have a little piece of honeymoon. Okay, what's the next thing?
Donations.
Donations.
Right. So for our wedding, at the time we were working at the same. No, we weren't working together. But I was working at the school attached to the church we were attending, and we got a lot of donations that brought our wedding price down. I think we'll tell you how much we paid. Our budget it helped our budget. They donated flowers and time. People donated their time, all kinds of things. It was a wonderful
It was a blessing
experience.
because we ain't had no money.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we weren't broke, but we
was cracked.
Oh yeah.
So,
Right.
but the donations were a blessing, and I think that if you can have people help you out,
Right.
It felt good to have people helping us out.
And the donations didn't come necessarily from family.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it was just
people who donated.
People that we worked with, that I worked with.
People from the church.
People from the church, and it made a big difference.
People I worked with.
Mm-hmm, people you worked with. It made a big difference in our wedding day.
Right.
And it took a burden off of us. So anything that can pull a burden off of you is going to be helpful at this time because it can be.
In addition to the fact that we didn't have a wedding planner,
right?
Oh, no. And so some of you may be able to have, right? Some people may be able to have a wedding planner. Mm-hmm. So I'd be remiss not to mention that if you have a wedding planner, just kind of step back just a little bit.
So let them do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So you can concentrate.
I mean, you're already paying them.
Right. So you can concentrate on the things that are going to matter after a couple of hours is over.
Right. Mm-hmm. So just a couple more things on our particular wedding experience. I had, at the time, I think 2 suits.
Right.
One of them was a green suit.
Emerald.
So it was an emerald green suit.
Emerald green.
It was an emerald green suit. That was probably my best suit at the time. So we got engaged in June. Our wedding was planned for December. So we were only going to be engaged for 6 months. And right around October, we weren't even doing a whole lot of planning, but right around October, I was like, look.
But there was a lot in our lives,
right,
to have to deal with.
What was going on?
I mean, we had the situation with your mom still trying to get used to the idea of her son being married.
Yeah.
My family was my family.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I was still in school, and and you were working at the school, but you hadn't been working there very often, so you were like grading papers and books and not used to all of that.
Yeah, I was trying to get used to all that, and it was just a lot. I guess it was a lot, and we were trying to figure out, the wedding material, because we didn't have traditional suits and wedding outfits. Right. So you were getting yours made. I was getting mine made somewhere. We had to find all that.
Right.
And so at some point, I was just going to put on the green suit. And what was you going to wear?
I was going to find a piece of dress.
We were going to find a dress, and we was going to drive to Vegas and just get married.
By Elvis or something.
By Elvis or James Brown or somebody. Was
right.
Just like, and talking to a few people that have been married. So ridiculous. And talking to a few people that have gotten married, at some point, a lot of people think about just running away and just getting it done.
But don't do it. Don't do it.
Right. Because you want to be there with your family.
Right. You want the pictures.
Yeah. You want the pictures. You want to be there with your family. You want the memories. So most people want to run away, I think, at some point. So if you're good with that, and you make sure that you make sure that you guys say the vows, and you make sure that you make your promise to God, I say do that. A lot of times people elope and they go see the judge or whatever, but if you already have your license and you already have whatever it is that you need, that all that you really need is to stand in front of each other. And we're Christians, as you know, and so we believe that you say your vows to each other and to God. That's all you really need. And so you get that, and you do it that way, and then you move into your life.
Right. And you can always imagine how much money they save? You can do all that celebration and family stuff. You can do that later.
Right.
Or you can have a dinner later, or you can have a blowout later, or all those things. But what's really important is that you come together to start your marriage. Right.
For our wedding, what we did was we had our vows, and then we knew that a bunch of folks that were coming hadn't been in the church in a long time. And we didn't know as many people were going to come as they did.
Man, it was packed.
It was packed. Some people just showed up.
Right.
But
did they even like us?
I don't know, but they got to hear a word.
Yeah, because, but they did get a word.
What we did was we said our vows. We sat down and we had our pastor preach a sermon, a quick sermon, because it was going to be the first time a lot of those folks were in church. So we wanted to make sure that we started our marriage ministry by allowing them to have some ministry from God.
Right.
And we know that that was going to pay off.
And we took communion too.
And we took communion.
We had our first communion as a married couple.
Yeah. So after all the wanting to run away, and after all the I was just gonna put my green suit on and go drive to Vegas.
Right.
And after all the donations and everything, I think our wedding was beautiful. And
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it immensely once I could breathe.
About as much as I could remember of it.
Right.
It went fast.
It went fast.
If you don't slow down, you're not gonna remember.
Yeah.
You gotta slow down.
Right. We got one more on our particular wedding was all the moving parts, and we kind of started talking about that.
Right.
Because on the day of our wedding, you were doing what?
I walked to get my hair done.
Right. This is the wedding day now.
Yeah, I walked to get my hair done by myself.
Right.
And then I walked back home. And then I had to immediately drive from Long Beach to Los Angeles.
Right.
To go start picking up my family because they didn't have reliable transportation. Right. And I had to take that trip like 2 or 3 times.
Right.
To get them to the church in time so they could get dressed and be ready.
Right. And then we got there on the wedding day, and now the folks had donated the flowers and the decorations, but when we got there, they had put like flowers in the plant because she just wanted plants, like greenery. But
we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, another time.
Next season.
Okay.
Next season.
All right.
But yeah.
So it was a lot of moving parts. She was driving,
parts.
getting people. I was trying to make sure that everything was right at the church and getting the music right and doing all those things. And we were doing these things ourselves.
Right.
So it was a bunch. And then we'll talk about the rest of it because it's getting long. But we'll talk about the rest of it another time. But the important thing is
stay encouraged.
Stay encouraged
during all these moving parts.
Right. Yeah, you got to keep it pushing.
Right, and try not to be an episode on Bridezilla.
Right. And I can say this directly into the camera. My wife never became a Bridezilla. Right? You kept it together. It was amazing. What? You didn't?
I did my best.
You wanted to be a Bridezilla? You just
I didn't want to be a Bridezilla, but you want stuff like you wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you were a Bridezilla.
Right.
Like you was. Yeah. So what did we learn, wife?
What did we learn, husband?
About planning a wedding.
Nothing. The wedding is not as important as the marriage.
The wedding is not as important as the marriage. And you don't have to make a ridiculous bill that you're going to have to pay off for years to make your marriage great.
Right. And or you don't have to empty your savings account for a wedding that's only going to last a little bit.
Yep. What was the time when we were talking about it before? We were thinking, what was that time at the actual wedding part? You think about how long that lasts?
I've been to a few weddings. They don't usually last more than about 20 minutes.
Right.
Because we did libations and communion and there was a message, ours was about 40 minutes.
Right. For the actual wedding, most people's wedding part, the vows, the walking down the aisle, all that stuff is about 20 minutes.
And it can be a whole lot shorter depending on who your minister is.
Right.
Or who the officiant is, because they don't all the time read everything in their trusty handy book.
So you don't have to spend $50,000 for 20 minutes. Yeah, it's expensive. And who wants to feed that many people? So you don't have to make a ridiculous bill to get married.
Right.
What's the second thing we learned?
You don't need most of the things people tell you you need.
Right. You don't need them.
You don't need them.
Right. You don't need something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue.
I don't know about that, husband. I might need a little blue. I don't know, but you don't need like glass chairs and perfectly matched tablecloths to plates to like. I think that stuff is maybe stuff you don't need.
Right. And that's where a lot of the expense goes to the party afterwards, right? The reception and stuff.
I mean, you don't need a $20,000 Vera Wang either.
Right. Oh, the dress.
Yeah.
Yeah. They probably don't need all that.
You can have it if you want to, though.
Right.
You don't need it, though.
Right. And I think that's the important part. You don't need everything.
Right.
People want to tell you want you to believe that you need. Right.
Right.
And the last thing was, I think that's this is a good one. Listen to it.
Slow down. Enjoy the day.
Right.
You definitely want to enjoy this day. It's a day that two families are becoming one.
Right.
It's the day that you get to hopefully see all of your family members at their best, looking good, acting good.
Right.
All the goods.
All the goods. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times we get to see our family members at their something.
Right.
Right. But I think that's probably the one we want to end on. You gotta slow down.
Slow down.
Pay attention. Enjoy your wedding, and then get into your marriage, and so that you can make let the marriage be the wedding rather be memories that you make that you can talk about later.
Right.
And then the marriage become your life together. Right. So slow down. Enjoy it. So that's about what we know about planning a wedding.
Right.
I'm sure you have a lot of your own thoughts. You may be in the middle of planning a wedding now. And if you are, and if you watch to this point, why don't you go ahead and like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with somebody else who may be going through.
Right.
It might be helpful.
Okay. See you next time.